I thought this was going to be a detour, like a little blip on the radar, just an inconvenience, but it was okay. I was going to be back to being, normal,
Mhm.
and it was all going to be fine. And then when I found out that I had essentially a year's worth of treatment on the table, I was absolutely devastated.
Hello, and welcome everybody to the Dating Without Nipples podcast, where we go topless, taking the top off of insecurity and shame so that we can show up for our most courageous and inspired lives. I am so excited, sweet souls, to be introducing you to Julie Eichholz. Julie is a true warrior, and she's a breast cancer survivor. I'm going to have Julie talk about her story today, have her talk a little bit about her mission, and provide tons of resources and incredible insights for anybody that is going through a cancer journey. Julie, thank you so much for being with us in this conversation.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here with you, Alyssa. You're one of my favorite people, and I'm just really been looking forward to this conversation. So thank you.
Absolutely. We are kindred spirits for sure, and self-proclaimed warriors through and through. Julie, I would love if you would be willing to share a little bit of your journey, and specifically your cancer journey, because you handled it different than most. You showed up in a way that empowered you and inspired those around you. It's even led to a new career and a really important mission. Will you tell us how you got through all of this, how you got to be where you are today?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Um, so I thought I was having stage 1 breast cancer. That was initially what the pathology came back with. I decided to have a bilateral mastectomy. My gift to myself was never having to go through a mammogram again, right? So I had a bilateral mastectomy. Everything looked to be stage 1. And a couple weeks later, my breast surgeon called me back about 8 o'clock at night and said, Julie, I've got some bad news for you. And they had taken a sampling of the lymph nodes from underneath my left arm, and they decided that they found actually cancer in there when initially the pathology didn't show that we had cancer in the lymph nodes. We thought we were going to be one and done. I thought it was going to be a blip on the radar. And in fact, it was cancer, and all the treatments were going to be back on the table. And he said, I know this is really hard to hear. What I want you to know is your entire team is going to be beside you the entire way, and we're going to get you through this. And at that time, that wasn't amazingly comforting because I was devastated, right? I mean, when you hear news like, okay, this is going to be hard. What I thought would be, I was going to be back to my 70-hour work week, or you know, working in the world and doing my mission work and really pumping it out. And I asked him, I said, so, how long will this take? And he said, well, you're going to have to probably write off 2017. I'm like, what? 2017? A whole year? I thought, oh, that is simply not possible. And probably other people may have that experience, but I'm sure that I'll be back, in the mix before you know it. And but he said, we are going to have to look at everything, all chemo and radiation. So I wept. I was devastated initially. I got in contact with a friend of mine from work who was a warrior, just finished cancer treatment. And she said to me, I reached out to her and I said, how in the world am I going to handle this? What do I do first? What's the first step? What do I need to do? And she said, Julie, you're going to have to make a decision that is going to affect the rest of your life. This is the most important decision that you're going to make. Are you going to be victim or victor? Will you be a victim or will you be a warrior? How will you approach this? Because how you experience this from this point forward is how your family will experience it, how your friends will experience it, and how the world will experience it. And you have to make that choice. And so I really just sat still. And which is hard for me because I'm perpetual motion.
Mhm.
But I sat still and I decided really at that very moment, and in fact, I demanded it from myself. I decided that I would be a warrior. And so I went in with the attitude that uh, we were going to do this. We were going to knock it out. In fact, I went to my breast surgeon and I said, let's get this party started. You know, we're going right through this. And, you know, I even had the blessing before surgery to have a boob voyage party because I recognized that people wanted to connect with me, but they didn't know what to say. No one ever knows what to say when you have cancer. Everybody loves you. They want to love on you. They want to say something that's meaningful, but they don't know what to say. And so I thought I would start creating my community then. Actually, it was quite beautiful. I had 60 of my closest friends. We met down at my favorite restaurant. We had margaritas and we toasted to my tatas. We said goodbye. We hugged and kissed and laughed and cried. And that was the beginning of my tribe. And so I really rode on the shoulders of giants the whole way through my treatment. I had this beautiful community of people from all over the world that sent support and love and cards and letters. And it was really a pretty incredible way to experience it. And so I think through that experience, I learned that forming your narrative and grieving when appropriate, right? And leaning into it made a huge difference in the outcome. And I believe that other people are inspired by that. And so I figured that if I can do it for myself, I can do it for other people. And I, you know, I met you in the coaching community, and, you know, I just knew you were amazing the moment that I met you. And it has been such a joy to share this journey with you. How fun has this been? I
Yeah.
mean, just seeing the evolution of it all, right? So,
Absolutely. It's always an ongoing evolution. And I've heard it said that the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything. And it's really important to have someone in our life, like your friend that you turned to, that will say, which way are you going to take this? How do you want to be intentional about your journey and show up? Are these adversities here to serve you? Or are you going to potentially sink? It's interesting to me to hear your response to the initial diagnosis. That's something that people ask me about a lot. How did you feel? What did you do when you heard the news? And I've heard so many people describe it differently. Some people think, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. This is it. It's a cancer diagnosis and they're afraid for their lives. Others of us think, oh my gosh, I'm just, okay, if I just do these surgeries and get these out of the way, then I'll get back to my life, business as usual.
I thought this was going to be a detour, like a little blip on the radar, just an inconvenience, but it was okay. I was going to be back to being, you know, normal, and it was all going to be fine. And then when I found out that I had essentially a year's worth of treatment on the table, I was absolutely devastated because I thought, oh my gosh, I don't have time for this. I'm busy. I got a lot to do, and I have a lot of people to help. So it was very devastating, at least initially. Again, I came back to that Army sergeant in my head that says, you can do this. You got it. I know you can. And, you know, not everybody has to have that graphic of a depiction in their head, but for me, that was super important. So it was like a coach all day long. All right, you got this. You got this. I went through chemo and I started to lose my hair, and I felt like I was losing my femininity. It was scary, right? Because they warned me it was going to be happening, and I decided again that I would form my narrative. And I came back to the table. I actually had a video out where I said, "Cancer, you do not define me." And my friend shaved my head. I was surrounded by family and my daughter-in-law, my friends, and it was just a very empowering moment. And I remember, I don't know if you went through this or if this was your experience. I remember being really freaked out because my hair was like my signature. Like I loved my hair, loved my hair. And then it all fell out and I was bald, but it was kind of cool because I kept hearing like, oh, you're a pretty bald woman, and I bought I spent money on wigs because I just didn't want people to see me in that vulnerable state. And then I realized, oh, it's summertime and it's really flipping hot. So I went without my wig for a long period of time. And one of the biggest stages of healing was when I decided that I wanted to document this in professional photography. And I worked with Dawn Corwin, creative photography here locally. She and I had done some mission work back in the early days together. She's a remarkable photographer. And they took my vision and they made it into art. And you see that throughout a lot of my social media. But we did a raw shoot where we had scars and everything. I just wanted to be absolutely transparent. And then we did another photo shoot where we went to the botanical gardens here locally, and I was dressed like a princess in a dress that I had borrowed. And we were taking these beautiful photos amongst all these gorgeous flowers. And it was so cute because every time that we passed by a child, they were like, oh, did you see the princess? Did you see the princess? And in fact, one of the dads had this adorable little girl on his shoulder, and we were in the middle of shooting a shot, and he came up and he said, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but my daughter wants to meet the princess. So, and I was bald, and I'm like, it was amazing to me that people would be drawn to that, because for me, I felt like I was, I was on display, light shining off my head and everything. And what I realized was I just came to terms with being at peace with it. And I'm like, you know what? Surrender. There's this beautiful intersection of grace and surrender where you're like, you know what? This is just what it is. I might as well stop resisting and stop fighting this moment and see what I can learn from it instead. Right?
Yeah.
And I went through radiation. Radiation was a whole nother gig. That was brutal for me. I only got through 29 of my 33 radiation treatments. And for people that don't know it, radiation actually works in a cumulative way. So it builds. You'll go 5 days a week, have the weekend off. 5 days a week, have the weekend off. And it has to stack up in order for it to work. And what happened for me was I started getting some horrific burns. Like I was being treated with Silvadine, which is what burn victims use. My skin was just literally peeling off of my left side. I couldn't put my arm down for about a month. And then right at that time, I lost my job. And I lost my job for about 5 months. And I thought, oh man, how am I going to stay positive through this? And it was a challenge, but I was committed at that point. And so I posted positive things every time I went to treatment. I created a kindness corner where I displayed all the gifts and the love and the cards that I got from all over the world. I made a kindness corner in my house so that I could remember to be grateful for the little things, because in the long run, that's all we really have, right?
Yeah.
All the stuff on the periphery doesn't matter. The stuff that really matters, your family, your friends, breathing the fresh air, looking at the beautiful blue sky. I mean, these are things that we take for granted every day. So it was a great opportunity to sit and revisit that. And I realized that even after treatment, that's where the biggest gap was, right? So it's kind of like having a wedding. Everybody focuses all this energy on the wedding. Everybody gets freaked out about it. And I'm here to tell you, as someone who's been married 33 years, the wedding is not the hard part. The marriage is where all the work occurs, right? I mean, it's work to be married. So, everybody freaks out about the wedding when really where you're really digging in is everything that comes after the wedding. And I see cancer treatment in that very same way. I am working with people that are in survivorship, and I am helping them reconstruct their lives, redesign their do-overs. Okay, great. Now, this is where we're at. Where can we go from here? What strategy can we set up? How can we empower you to feel like you're in charge of your narrative. So that's my mission, is to help people feel supported in all stages of cancer treatment, before, during, and after, and to give a lot of love to the caregivers, because they are really looking for ways to make a difference.
It's a really good point to talk about the caregivers, because it can be touchy. As the patient, we're going through so many cycles of emotion. There's so many ups and downs. Like you, I think I initially thought, okay, we'll get through this. How bad can it be? I see people survive this all the time. When I learned I had to have chemo, I think that was when there was a lot of anger, a lot of underneath rumbling and things like that. But for the caregivers, when they are trying so hard but missing the mark, I feel as much as cancer patients need support, the people that love them do too. And I know you offer some of that in your coaching as well. What is some of the things that are helpful? What are the things that are sometimes not so helpful? I know for me, anybody that put their fear on me or made me feel disempowered was something I needed to create a boundary and distance myself from. Other people, though, I think would really like a lot of that. Don't you see how hard this is for me? So on the one hand, it's personal and it's unique, but I know you work with that too with caregivers. So do you want to speak a little bit to some of the kind of do's and don'ts for caregivers?
Absolutely. Yes. I think it's very important to talk about this, because everyone wants to help. They want to say something that is meaningful. I know even within my own family, and when you're in the middle of cancer treatment, you probably will agree with this, I don't have time to take care of anyone else's feelings. I just don't have the emotional energy. I mean, you had small children, so you were a little bit in a different scenario. My kids are pretty grown up at this point, right? But they're still all devastated. And I felt like in the middle of treatment, sometimes the only thing you can do is breathe. I mean, there are times when I army crawled to the bathroom, or I was hurting so much after the Neulasta shot that I could barely move, and I had to have assistance walking. I mean, there were times that it was so difficult to take care of myself. I knew that my only job was going to be to take care of myself. I had to let everything else go. One of the things that I recommend for caregivers is, first I do a little coaching, and I talk about that there's no need for you to provide an answer. Especially those of us who grow up in the Christian community, we feel like we have to have the answers to everything, right? Like we have to say, like, if I heard one more person say to me, God only gives you what you can handle, I wanted to throat punch them, honestly. I mean, it was so, I had this visceral reaction to like, stop telling me I'm so strong. I don't want to be this strong. I don't want to be going through this. Or stop telling me everything happens for a reason. Really? So not helpful. So basically, I try to put a little bit of humor in it and just tell them that the very kindest thing that you can do as a caregiver, as someone who loves someone who's going through this, is to listen, right? The kindest thing you can do is just be there and witness whatever's going on. You can help them with practical things like meals. We can work out meal plans together. I mean, there's all kinds of cool apps that are out there right now, and I'm actually got my hands in a few of them, and I'm testing them out so that people can feel like they're doing something. My group in particular hired a house cleaner. And I will tell you, that was my favorite 3 months of my life, because they were like, oh, we'll come over and clean your house. And I'm like, no, but then I'm going to have to clean my house before you come over and clean my house. Right? So, and they were like, well, would you like for us to hire someone? And I said, if I could choose, that would be my favorite thing. And so that's what we did, actually. I didn't feel like, when you have company over, that I had to clean up, but we had a house cleaner that came in, and that was so remarkable because I did not have to worry about my house for those 3 months. And I don't think most people know that there are actually organizations out there who will come and clean your house for free while you're in the middle of cancer treatment. Google it. It's a thing, right? But I mean, I didn't know until after we got done with cancer treatment that was actually possible. So there are all kinds of organizations that are out there that will help. What I do is I try to plug people into the resources that they need, whether it's a support group, whether it's discussion boards. I mean, they have so many discussion boards out there right now that can give you updates on whatever kind of cancer you're addressing. So I think that really it's about education and support and comfort and just compassion, assuring them that they are in the right place at the right time, and that being present is the kindest thing you can do.
It really is. Just having a space for someone to self-express and work it out a little bit on their own. For me, it was sisterhood, as all things are. It was a space to go where people were just going to hold space and let me work through in real time what this is. This could be this. It could have been something that I did. One day I'm feeling down, that I wore the wrong deodorant. I didn't eat the right foods. It was something toxic. I wasn't smart enough to not get cancer. Some days it was really personal. Other days it was, I'm the strongest, smartest, and this is happening to me for a reason because I'm meant to be a leader. And it's a part of the journey. And I'm going to show my daughters what a real fighter looks like and all of this. And some days it was, yes, please bring me food. Other days it was, get that out of here, because if I have to smell that, I'm going to vomit.
Exactly.
So someone that can ride that with you and really just hold the space and provide resources. There are an overwhelming amount of resources. If anything, I think it's navigating what is available versus finding things that if we assume that we're alone in the breast cancer community, that's just absolutely a misconception. So
I agree completely.
Yeah.
And community is probably, I think, the most important healing vehicle, because you realize that you're not alone. You do tend to feel at the beginning of the journey that you are isolated and alone. But part of, my vision to have a coaching practice inside of every cancer care center in the United States is part of creating that community. We would recruit, we'd have a nucleus of staff and recruit people on the periphery that have had whatever kind of cancer that you've had coming through this, and you will have a buddy to walk through the system with you. We'll train the trainer, we'll work with them, and we'll teach you, when do we have these conversations one-on-one? When do we include maybe a mental health professional? Depression is so common when you are in cancer treatment and even afterward, because things are so confusing. I've had a lot of conversations with women who've lost a lot. So we're talking about, how do we manage grief? And so I think community is a beautiful way to lift each other up. I know you and I have been in some sisterhood opportunities. You're so good at that. You're so gifted at creating sisterhood. And so I also look to replicate that sisterhood experience. I call it welcome to the sacred sisterhood, right? And so, yes, I believe that community is potentially the best healing opportunity you have.
Community was massively important. And there was also days, and tell me if you felt the same, where there wasn't anyone else that could do this for me. It was something I just had to show up for and do on my own. And that, I think, leads to a lot of going within and finding that deepest sense of self, whether it is your own resolve or your connection to a higher power or the will to live, even potentially. And then sometimes at all costs, when you talk about grief and loss, often it's not just how am I going to get through cancer, but is my marriage going to survive this? Are my finances going to survive this? I don't know if I can survive cancer and then go pretend to work in a job that I never want to spend another day doing. And our whole life our whole perspective shifts.
That is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I will say that we cannot often fit back into the same container that we were in before we had cancer treatment. And what I found from myself is I don't want to, right? So not only can I not fit back into the same container, I actually am interested in redesigning my life. I'm actually interested in living my life on purpose in a way that that lends itself to my mission, to my goals, and to supporting other people. Absolutely. Yeah, it's so hard because you're looking, you're like, oh my gosh, if I live in another 5, 10, or 20 years, do I want to do what I just did for the past 30? And the answer for me was no, hell no. I do not want to do that, right?
Yeah.
I actually want to create an amazing life. So if you're not where you want to be, how can we get there? And sort of that's the journey that I invite people to come with me on,
Yeah.
is redesigning your life.
Right. Sometimes it seems like cancer not required, right? I mean, this can happen to anybody at any time, but facing mortality or realizing how strong and capable we are, and then to put everything we've been through up against, oh, I wouldn't want to start a business. That would be so hard. Or is it going to be as hard as cancer? Everything gets a little bit shifted, and you have this sudden, why do I care so much what people think? Why am I living for someone else's comfort, whether it's a relationship or whatever? What kind of mom, what do I really want to show my kids? Do I want to show them codependency and martyrdom? So when we talk about survivorship, it's really such a mixed bag, wouldn't you say? Because there's so much inspiration and so much energy to change, because we've survived. We're so grateful to be here. We want to make so much more out of our life. And also there's grief, and there's certain expectations. We thought pieces maybe were going to be put back together in ways that they're just not. And then it's a little bit like a wedding too, where it's a wedding in terms of all the attention gets put on one thing. All the attention gets put on the time frame of the treatment, and when you're very visually experiencing it, other people can see. I remember going to grocery stores with a bald head and a baseball cap, and man, were people nice to me, right? But when the visual signs start to go away, and then it's like a wedding, the attention, the support, it sometimes fades, and we also grow out of it. But it's okay. Now where am I in my new life, in my new body, and now what? I remember at one time even using the phrase cancer bride, because I got so much attention and love. And then afterward, wouldn't say that I missed the attention, but it was just such a mixed bag. It was really holding opposites in so many areas of emotion.
Well, I experienced it in a way that I would describe as my unbecoming, right? And in the way that you unwrap a gift and you don't know what's inside, I think that for me, I had to get super clear. I mean, I really wanted things to be easy after cancer, didn't you? Didn't you feel like, oh man, I should have a bye for 2 years. Everything should go exactly the way I want it. This should be easy. And I found out that it was harder, actually, in some ways, because I wasn't the same person that I was going in. I didn't want to go back to the same person that I was when I was there. And it was going to take a huge level of responsibility, accountability, personal reflection to actually decide, okay, what elements of my life are not working for me today, right? What do I not want to be? Do I want to be doing this job for the next 30 years? Do I want to be in these relationships for the next 30 years? If my life isn't amazing, whose responsibility is that? That's my responsibility, right? So I think it really comes down to unbecoming everything that I thought I was supposed to be, right? That Stepford wife life of all the ways I should on myself, all the things that I told myself I was supposed to be. And then I was really like, what about me? In fact, I even joked around for my 50th birthday. I announced at work, I said, hey, guess what Julie's getting for her 50th birthday? And one of my friends said, what? And I said, boundaries. And in fact, last year was I even put it on my media as my year of yes. And you know what that led to? My year of no. So now this is my year of no, where I am actually putting in the work to get to the next level. And it feels so satisfying.
Mhm.
It is so rich. And my life has become so meaningful in ways that I had not expected. And just to even sit and have the opportunity to have this conversation with you and women that have been in our position, it's an honor. It's an honor to be having these conversations and to help people navigate this journey.
Mhm.
So yes, thank you.
Absolutely. And I sense from you the cup is just overflowing, and hence the mission to want to continue to spread the love and to support others and to find those resources. You're so good with strategy even. So it's such a beautiful gift. I think you've said life crisis strategist is, and that is, it's amazing though when stuff happens and we're so wildly out of control, to have all of those things is brilliant. So Julie, where can people go to find you if they want more information about your work or your story and want to connect?
Oh, absolutely. So I am starting my brand new podcast, and it's called Cancer, a Love Yourself Story. And it's where I challenge people with hard questions and healing conversations. And we really unwrap the idea that cancer doesn't have to be an end to everything that you know to be true about yourself. Rather, it's an invitation to become the best version of yourself. And we're going to talk to experts from all over the world, oncologists, surgeons, dietitians, breast cancer warriors, business owners, people who have navigated this and can provide some hope and opportunities for resilience. And that's Cancer, a Love Yourself Story. And then you can find me on Facebook and Instagram for Daye of the Warrior, and that's Daye, Daye of the Warrior. So yes, you can reach out to me there. There are more exciting things coming down the pike, but that's it for now.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Julie. And I do end the podcast typically with an opportunity for you to lead by receiving. You've been so generous in giving to the audience with your story and your resources and your inspiration. Is there some intention or energy that I could send to you, that the audience could send your way, that you would like to receive?
I would say compassion. I am hyper aware that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just learning, right? And so I'm sure that I'm going to be flawed and fabulous, right? We're going to be stepping out into this together. We will be learning together. I don't come to this table knowing everything. I don't come to this table being the person who has everything together. In fact, I'm deeply, deeply human. And so I would love to have the same compassion that I offer to other people.
Absolutely. Yes, I love that. Compassion from me, from everyone listening, for all of our selves, our future selves, our surviving warrior goddess selves. And Julie, thank you so much. Until next time, everybody, please be a warrior, be inspiring, write your own narrative, go topless, and with so much love. We'll see you next time.